Okay guys, I'm going to run you through now how to do part 1 of the forms of part B. Now, we need to do a form for data entry, okay? Now, if we read through the options here, which is the top bit here, it basically says we have to be able to set the form up for data entry and be able to deal with an owner, essentially adding an owner. Now, since we're adding an owner, that means we use the table owner. So we create a table, create a form on table owner, add all things across, hit next, and then modify form design. Remember, call it add an owner or something like that. It needs to be a relatively sensible name of your form. And that'll get you this point here, okay? Now, if I load this form as it is now, you'll notice that it loads up our form and it gives us an owner ID of 1. So it allows us to set up just one owner at the moment. It's search the records for at the moment. That's not what we want to do. We want to add a new record. So we do that. We hit the form properties. You'll notice it gets something called data entry here. Now on full screen it looks something a bit more like that. Okay. Now we're going to switch that on to becoming yes and close that down. When we run the form now, you'll notice it says new. The reason it's doing that is because it is allowing you to add a new record on the end of all the other records. If it loads the record number 1, 2, and 3, it would be editing someone else's record. We want to add a new one, so there's never any going to be reason for us to want to edit someone in a form that's designed to add an owner. So that's why the new section here always starts a new value. Now to make that look a bit nicer, we're going to right click on this one, go to properties. Now if I keep this window open in the split view like this, just be aware that everything will be shifted to the left a little bit. So when you do this, normally it'd be on the right over here, on this side of the screen. But for now, it'll be a bit compact. Just don't worry too much about that. So we've got our property sheet and we've set up next to our owner ID. If we change the enable to no and close it down, what this does is it blacks out and grays this option out. So not only can you not change it, but it's automatically filled for us. So it's always a new record. Now we have to add some new things into this. So we've got our formulary for data entry. We have to be able to select a branch. Now we have to do that by using a combo box. And so we can, well, just to be fair, we can use a combo box, a list box, or a number of different options. Really, any of them are as good as each other, but in this case, we're going to use a combo box. It's a little bit easier to use, and it's a little bit quicker. So we're going to jump into there, going to go to our design phase, hit controls, and we're going to find our little combo box there and drop that in there. So we can grab the values we want from table branch, and branch address. Let's just go with branch ID for safety, make sure we're not going to use too many values. Pass that across, bring the values later and use it. Make sure we mix that control source to branch ID. And then what we're going to do is rename it branch ID. Need to be able to enter the owner surname, the branch ID, number of properties we're going to arrange, and valid data should be appended to the owner table, and a save message should be solved. So we seem to have everything here. And so what we can do is we can now start shrinking these boxes down a little bit, because they're a little bit oversized and a little bit impractical for us to use. So you can put owner email like this, owner telephone can move like this. Remember, you'll have to neaten this up a little bit in your own examples. I'm not going to do it in here to save a little bit of time, okay? Now, if you read the exam paper, it tells us that we have to use between 1 and 10 branches, properties, sorry. So what that means, we have to set validation up to ensure that we can only use between 1 and 10 properties. We don't have to set this up in this box here, but we can do. We're going to probably use the code though, as that'll be a little bit easier. So for now, I've got the owner ID, owner email, owner telephone, owner surname, branch address, number of properties. I'd recommend perhaps switching them around a little bit to make it look a bit nicer for you. But to save a little bit of time here, I'm not going to do that right now. In your exam, that's up to you if you want to play around with that. Just make sure there's no truncated values or values that are not showing properly. That will also make it look a bit nicer, so it's not going to, be a bit clunky like this, because that look a bit unprofessional. You want to just tighten it down a little bit, make it a little bit cleaner. But that's not something to worry too much about. For now, your focus should be on making sure that it works. Now we're going to add a button here, and enter that in there. Cancel that, and hit properties, and we're going to rename it add owner, and give it the caption of add owner. That's it, and we can right click, hit build events, hit code builder, and there we go, there's our code. So what we can do is we can start testing these things. So we want to make sure that we do an if statement to check if our owner is present. Remember, we're adding a new owner here, and it needs to check that the owner's surname and the branch name must be present. So you must do some validation on that. We also must check the number of properties is in the specified range. Okay, so that requires us to do some if statements here or some validation. And we can do that by creating some if statements. So first if statement, if is null, owner surname, then, put a bracket in there, then message box, you must enter a surname. Now you can have something called VB OK only. And what they'll do is, if the only option is to select VB OK only, you say OK and then restart and do the next bit. It allows you to make sure that someone's entered a value in that's acceptable, and then the option they've got is to go OK to it. There are lots of options, that's something we're going to need to worry about at this precise moment in time. Now, when we set up our value for our branch address, it was actually called combo 13. To simplify things now, I'm going to rename that to be branch ID. And the reason for that is we're going to go into the code and we're going to actually refer to that code line. So in this case, it's going to be branch ID list index. Now a list helps me put the right one, isn't it? List index. And what that does, ignore this thing, it's just goes away at the end to keep it throwing off. So what this is doing is checking the list index. If no value was picked, e.g. it was -1, then we do something else. If a value was clicked, it wouldn't be -1 because it all defaults to -1. So we haven't got to worry about that cascade eventuality. But if it is -1, we want to send a message box out, warn the person that you must select a branch. And we can do VB OK only again. Autoclick, it's working off me tonight. And then finally, we want to check the number of properties in the allowable range. So we can go number of properties now. Make sure you check the name of your values, don't forget. It is called num properties. So I can go and use that as it is. But if your code doesn't work, first you want to do is check the name of your text boxes. Not called something correct that you're referring to, that's probably why they're not going to work. So make sure you check that. And that's it. That'll give us our between 10. Remember, if it's between a range, say in between 1 and 10, it's AND. If it's outside the value of 1 or 10, it's OR. Make sure you remember that for your exam, as that will be important for you. And then finally, when number of properties must be between 1 and 10. Again, I'll be by OK only. If this thing would do its job today and actually do the correct way, it'd be quite helpful, wouldn't it? There we go. And finally, we do an else statement at the end, which is the default case. If everything else is working, we do something called do command. And that tells the PC to do something for us. In this case, we want to save. And within the message box, say to the person, you saved the record, well done. No reason for caps, I just happen to have my finger on the button, so in exam don't do that. And then again, be OK only. You shouldn't have to put the OK only in, that's really a choice. But it was part of the example solution for this one, so that might be an option to use it. And do command, go to record. The 2 blank arguments, don't worry about it. And just do AC new record. Now I'll send you to the newest record you've got, and then we can end if. And that's it. What this code does, it just checks if our surname is null, then we warn someone to start again. If our branch index is null, we warn someone to start again. If number of properties is outside of the range between 1 and 10, then we warn someone to start again. If all that's fine, then we save the record, we tell them it's been saved, and we start a new record. And that's all that is. So you save that, and now when we do it, we can select one of the branches that are there, populate and random data in there, put data as 5, owner, and it should work absolutely fine. If we go to table owner, you'll see right at the end there, we've got our 61, which is the one we were working on. If we create a new record, for instance, let's just test if the email works. So we know the email is not going to be a problem, so that's fine. This again is fine. If we test it here, it will throw an error from the surname, which is good, so put a surname in there. We select a branch, in which case we can select 7. Then you select a property number between 1 and 10, so we go for, say, a -5. -5, you see it'll work, and then hit 11, see that'll work as well. That's how we check that it's working. Put a relative record in there, get that in there, it will save it. Go to the table owner, we may have to close and open the record again to see it. You then see it's added our person here, owner surname Martin, who owns 5 houses. And there you go, that's how you do part 1 and part 2 of this exam paper. Please be aware, guys, you will have to do interface testing based on normal, erroneous, extreme data, which I've already mentioned previously. Very simple, just going through interfaces, showing that they're working and taking print screens of them. Pretty easy. And once you get those print screens, you then do your interface evaluation. This is where you just go through and explain why you designed it the way you did, consider how well you designed it, how well it works, and just write about the things it's asking you to write about. So explain how it works, why it works well, why you've done it the way you've done it. If you use code, why do you use code? If you use macros, why do you use macros? If you've done calculations in the text boxes, why have you done calculations that way? Just cover that over in your evaluation, quick summary, and that should be an easy 6 marks for you. Okay, thanks guys, I hope that was helpful for you. Sorry it was not up sooner than this, but you know, things are as they are. But it's up now for you guys, ready for your exam, and good luck, and I hope to see lots of distinctions come through this year. See you later guys.